Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will make more detailed recommendations on which youngsters should be vaccinated. A final decision should follow shortly after. U.S. intelligence agencies, in a review ordered by President Biden, reported it may never be concluded if COVID-19 was spread by animal to human transmission or a lab leak. This is AP News.
Oh, according to research, 82% of people remember radio ads. That means that 82% of you listening right now will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, 82% of you will recall that ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster and easier. And 82% of you will note that you can try ZipRecruiter for free today. But you have to go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Yes, free. 82% of you will keep in mind that ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified people for your job and actively invites them to apply.
Scott, is that you? Who are you talking to?
82% of you will also know that I live with my mom. But the most important thing to note is that ZipRecruiter works. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Will you be part of the 82% who remember where you can try ZipRecruiter for free? It's ZipRecruiter.com/free. Again, that exclusive link is ZipRecruiter.com/free. How much? Free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN 350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN 350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
The new Line 3 tar sands crude oil pipeline threatens our water and climate.
It's the end of the tar sands party, and Enbridge wants to sell some oil. Tar sands is the dirtiest oil in the world, so they really put our Great Lakes water in peril. The environmental permitting for this process is a joke. The line was shoved down our throats, and that's wrong. And we're still fighting it, and it's brutal. They should do an environmental impact statement on this project.
Visit stopline3.org to take action.
What we want is a just transition.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Cloudy skies overnight and a low of 44, and clouds give way to sun on Friday with a high of 54. Nightingale at 26th and Lindale in Minneapolis is your cozy, comfortable neighborhood bar and restaurant. Now open daily from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. with their full menu available until midnight. Check them out today at nightingalempls.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakunjahare, which means distant thunder. My colonized name is Robert Pilot, and we discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Wendy, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by J. Selby's, a plant-based eatery, and it's located at 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul.
Wow. Hey, so great day here, and a lot of work going on, and a good thing, and doing it in a good way. So really appreciate you and Ogimaa. And I know she runs triple duty over there, running that family and having another family member coming and working tirelessly on all the issues that Native Roots Radio has, but also all across Turtle Island. So without any further ado, let's get Ogimaa on with the news. Welcome, Ogimaa.
Hi, Buju Anin, everybody. I'm Ogimaa Ganuikwe, and I've got some news for you here on Native Roots Radio. For starters, it's Halloween this weekend, so I hope that you are all safe in whatever it is that you plan on doing with your kids or your family or for yourself, or whatever this weekend. I know one of my neighbors down the block is planning on handing out his Pokemon cards to the next generation of children, which I thought was a pretty cool Halloween trick-or-treating surprise. So you should let us know in the comments or something if you're giving out something unique for Halloween for trick-or-treating, just for fun, because it's Friday. The first story that I want to start with today in actual news is that the Koch brothers owned refinery is joining a Minnesota solar industry group. So Flint Hills Resources, which is one of the state of Minnesota's largest greenhouse gas polluters, is has joined and been unanimously accepted onto the Minnesota Solar Energy Industries Association last month. So it's really interesting because this Flint Hills Resources is a Koch Industries subsidiary, and they own the Pine Bend refinery south of St. Paul. Robert and Wendy, are you familiar with that refinery?
Unfortunately, yes. We see that every time we go down the river.
South on the Mississippi, we pass it, and it's really an eyesore. And we're on this beautiful Mississippi River, and the landscape is just so beautiful. And then there's this big refinery with stacks of fire flames coming out the tops. It's really awful.
It sucks.
So the association, which is the Minnesota Solar Energy Industries Association, says that allowing this fossil fuel company onto their onto the group won't specifically have any special influence over its policy agenda, but that they are prepared to create additional firewalls if needed. Like, I'm confused right now. So, it's getting mixed reactions, this story. Flint Hills apparently plans to build a 30 megawatt or larger solar project on its campus. So maybe their heart's in the right place, but I have such a hard time trusting anything Koch Industries own, especially thanks to Line 3, but also, when these fossil fuel companies get involved with renewable energy after how many people in the fossil fuel industry have been telling us for how many years, Robert and Wendy, that fossil fuels are the only way and that solar energy won't work, and they've been lobbying on that, and now they're working from the inside. Something about it just makes me really uneasy.
Totally. And I think one of the problems for me is that, one of the interesting angles, I should say, is that they know their end is coming soon. So they're divesting. They listen to our show and I say, you need to resist and divest.
We can only hope. In other news in Minnesota, I want to just throw this out there too. This is coming from WTIP.org, which is the North Shore Community Radio at 90.7 FM. So shout out to you guys way up north there. There's a proposed expansion of the Lutsen Mountain Ski Hill onto roughly 500 acres of the U.S. Forest Service land, and that is compromising the treaty rights of the Minnesota Chippewa bands. So the Grand Portage Band of Lake Superior Chippewa made its concerns about the expansion of the Lutsen Mountains very clear via the Cook County Chamber of Commerce. They sent a letter. And the letter is in response to a Cook County Chamber letter to the U.S. Forest Service, which was dated the 21st of October, and advocating for the hill's expansion. You can read the information, the full letter from the chamber on WTIP's website. But basically, the Lake Superior Chippewa Band is saying that the U.S. Forest Service land is on territory that was ceded by the Chippewa Bands in the 1854 treaty, and that this is a violation of their treaty rights. So it's not just pipelines. Sometimes it's ski hills. Sometimes it's golf courses. I know my partner just sent me an alert for that trailer for that movie Beans. Have any of you heard of that movie Beans?
No.
So the movie Beans is about an Indigenous girl who is coming to into her adolescence at the time of a problem in her tribe. So it's set in 1990, and what it is the Oka crisis at Kennesaw. Kennesaw, which she lived through as a child. So it's showing her in the eyes of what's happening. And what it is that these people, and they're First Nations people from Canada, they were fighting a golf course expansion. And at some points it got violent. So this movie's recommended for viewers 14 and age and up. But I just got the trailer for it again. It's directed by Tracy Deer from my partner, and it, for some reason that just brings it up again with this Grand Portage tribe fighting this Lutsen Mountain expansion. I want to take a quick minute over here to go over to North Dakota. The Nueita Hidatsa Sanish College and the University of North Dakota both got a $500,000 grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities. And the purpose of that is to preserve the language and culture of the Mandan Hidatsa and Arikara tribes, also known as the MHA Nation. The president of the Nueita Hidatsa Sanish College is Twyla Baker. Dr. Twyla Baker is fantastic if you have not checked out her work. She does fantastic work, and I'm really excited to hear that they've been given this grant and are going to be able to build this relationship with the University of North Dakota to work on those projects, because I know that I believe the Mandan language is actually listed as extinct. There's nobody left who speaks the Mandan language, but there's still some Hidatsa and Arikara left. So that is really powerful to see that coming through. And then one last story, Robert, did you find out that Sitting Bull has a great-great-grandson that's alive, or a great-grandson that's alive? Did you see that one?
We all knew it was him, and I guess he had to prove it to the white people that he was his great-great-grandson. But yeah, I did see that. It kind of blew up on all over the social media.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. So Ernie LaPointe of 73, who lives in Lead of South Dakota, had a DNA test done, and they were able to confirm that he is indeed Sitting Bull's great-grandson. So that was just kind of a fun one that I figured I'd throw in to make
it was kind of fun, only because they got Sitting Bull's hair, and they were able to do this in a really good way. So yeah, that's interesting that the DNA, but we're still here, and he always knew that. And so that's a really interesting thing, Wendy. I don't know if you saw that, but
I did see the story. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, come on, he's got to be descendants of people.
I mean, he had
there,
like 8 wives, didn't he, or something like that? He had quite a few wives.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Back in the day, that's the way it was, Wendy. Not now, though. Not now at all. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. It's Fun Friday, and we have State Senator Mary Kunesh with her positive vibes coming up next. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us. Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN 350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN 350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
Homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, it's a fun Friday, and who do we have on today, Wendy, other than your animal section for fun facts?
We have Senator Mary Kunesh.
Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh. Welcome, Mary. How's it going?
Matakiapi, I'm doing really well. How about all of you?
Well, Wendy made it home safe, and we're all is good, and the animals are no longer mine. They're all hers again, and I had the place clean, and then Wendy re-cleaned it, so the boss is back.
Well, there's a certain level that we all are very comfortable in, and we're just in our happy places when things are the way we think they should be.
That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Mary, it was great to see you this past, was it Sunday? Yeah, Sunday. And it was so good to see you and your relatives and your grandbaby at St. Kate's and that beautiful thing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? That was really exciting.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful day of fall weather here in Minnesota, but it was also a beautiful day to remember our lost relatives, our missing relatives. And what we had going on is part of a roving art exhibit around the missing and murdered Indigenous women, and that whole historic drama. It's called the Red Dress Exhibit, and it started up in Canada, and I'm going to try to remember her name. There's an artist up there who contacted, or St. Kate's contacted them, and her name is Jamie Black. That's her name. I always have a different name in mind, but Jamie Black is the one that has put together these art exhibits, these memorials to all these missing and murdered women across our generations. And it started in Canada, and it also was exhibited at the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian. And it's not the same dresses every time. They're sort of the local folks contribute to the exhibit. So a number of us, Judge McKeag and Judge, I'm going to forget all their names. Anyways, a bunch of us Native women were asked to participate in this event. And so we reached out to the tribes and to the people that we know. Just a second, I'm going to grab this.
Yeah, we saw
I got the flyer right here. It was Judge McKeag and Jessica Ryan, Sandy Whitehawk, and the LaPointe brothers were there to sing and drum, and Elder Jerry Dearly was there.
Today too, I saw, or yesterday, Jerry.
Yeah, and Judge Terry Yellowhammer was there. So we had a full group, and we just reached out to those folks that we knew, and folks contributed dresses. Some of the dresses are specifically in memorial to specific women that have gone missing. We had some children's dresses because we know this happens to children. Also, we should have had some men's and some two-spirit clothing there as well to represent them. But it was outside. It was beautiful. My own sisters came. And then my daughter with my grandchild, with my granddaughter came. So that was very, very exciting. And it was just a beautiful ceremony of commemoration. And I can't thank St. Catherine's and the president and Tarshia Stanley and Anita Thomas, who worked so hard to make sure that this was done, and it was done well in the right way, in a good way, with a good heart. So thank you for coming over. And then we had a wonderful feast afterwards with food from the sous chef. So yeah, lots of deliciousness.
Yeah, that was really good. I snuck in on that. I don't think, even though I was trying to say, hey, I'm a Ho-Chunk representative, can I have some free food? My wife's out of town, but I did get up there, and Sandy and her husband reached out to me and invited me up there.
Can I tell a funny story since it's Friday?
No.
Sure.
So I'm in New York. I'm on Long Island.
Oh,
I'm visiting my niece and her new baby and her partner, and I'm visiting with the family, and my phone texts. But I didn't answer it because, I'm visiting, I'm talking with people. Then my phone rings, and I just look at it, and it's Robert. And Robert never really calls me ever, and he knows I'm in New York. So I was like, oh my God, this must be an emergency.
Yeah.
I better pick up the phone. So I pick up the phone. I'm like, hey, babe, what's wrong? He's like, could you do me a really big favor and order that Chinese food that I really like? So I had to call the restaurant from New York. And then text him when it was ready and pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was awesome.
So yeah.
You better stick around for a while, girl.
We were all kind of laughing because we call the restaurant by a nickname, but he doesn't really know the real name of it. So
they've tricked me all this time, so I eat healthy food, and then I'm craving it now. She's out of town, and I don't know what to order or what the restaurant is. So
I guess it takes a community to take care of you, Robert.
It takes a community to.
I fed him Saturday night, so we'll have to, after this, always dole out specific days when you're gone.
And it's funny too, because we're looking at Ogimaa here, and she's crying because she knows it takes a village to take care of me.
Yes, so thank you, Ogimaa, as well.
Yeah, so all right. Well, back to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a wonderful exhibit, and I've had a few more invites to go present the information around our MMIW and now our new office, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Office. That's going to be a permanent office in our state government, and moving on to reaching out and educating people around the history of voter suppression and elections in Indian country. So always something to do or learn more about or to share.
Hey, I just want to jump back to that. Jerry was awesome as the MC, Jerry Deerling, whose birthday is today. But also, if you go over to St. Kate's, I know they did a lot of self-care and trimmed away those trees for those red dresses. And if you go there at what we like to call in movie land magic time, it's haunting. And haunting with all those red dresses and the little baby dresses that are there. That's very haunting, especially with all the information about these schools now with all these burial grounds or burials. With the young
Do you
ones.
know how long that the dresses will be up, Robert?
It's
a couple weeks for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, till the middle of November. I think November 14th is when it'll come down. So it's in the center, the quad of St. Catherine's. It's an open exhibit, so people can go onto the campus. It's in front of the O'Shaughnessy Theater in that big sort of open area. You were talking about the trees. So on Thursday before the exhibit, I went over there and Jessica Ryan brought us all into a circle, the students and the people that were going to put the dresses up. And we talked about the significance. We said prayers. We all smudged, and then we smudged around the perimeter. Bless the area. But what was really interesting is that St. Catherine's had hired a tree service to come and help put the trees the dresses up in the trees really high. And there were 4 men that came. And they joined the circle. They participated fully in, the preparation of the space. Very, very respectful. And then when the dresses were being hung in the trees, they were very careful with them and very intentional about trimming around the dresses so that they showed the best. And then on Saturday, one of the tree guys came back to the ceremony, and it was just so heartwarming that he did. I mean, these are kind of younger guys, and you don't think that, they're there to do a job, but it must have affected them and had a lasting effect for him to come back on Saturday.
Yeah, it really, it's surprisingly, because I was like going there, we're really close to St. Kate's, so at walking distance. Going there, Mary, and just like saying hi to you in person, because we hardly see each other in person anymore, and everyone else that was there, but it was very emotional. It totally
Very much. Very much.
Hey, I want to. Can you do another segment with us?
Sure, I'll stick it on.
So we just want to quickly give a quick shout out to our great grandmother Mary Lyons, who's listening in Scotland. She just posted up here on Facebook, and it's always good energy with Mary Lyons and her family.
I'm so glad she's there.
She loves listening to the show, and we just want to give her a big shout out. So shout out to Grandma Mary Lyons. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we're with State Senator of Minnesota, Mary Kunesh, and we'll be right back, Wendy.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Hi, this is Laura. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, is home to some of the best political talk in the Twin Cities. Okay, the best political talk. It's been a crazy time. We endured 4 years of a self-described extremely stable genius who said Mexico was going to pay for the wall. He never paid off Stormy Daniels, and it was ridiculous to suggest he asked another country's leader to do him a favor. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, the COVID virus was not a Democratic hoax. Inequity is real. America needs solutions to our climate crisis. AM 950 is one of the very few independent progressive radio stations in the United States. Thanks to AM 950 listeners and our partners, we've stayed in business for 17 years. Go to AM 950 Radio and see all the great independent businesses advertising with us. If you have a business or know of a business that could benefit from reaching the passionate listeners that support the advertisers on this station, send me an email, Laura@am950radio.com. That's Laura@am950radio.com.
Hi, I'm Claire Ferreira, President and owner of Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, here to share some information about our 5 for 25 drive program. We ask customers to take 5 minutes to review their experience with us, and we donate $25 to a local nonprofit of their choice. So far, our 5 for 25 drive has raised close to $50,000. Thanks to all of you out there who've taken part in this ongoing program. Find out more about our 5 for 25 drive program at standardheating.com. That's standardheating.com.
Tom Hartman here, and you can catch the Tom Hartman Show during your lunch break from 11 to 2 every weekday right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Find a wide selection of outdoor hearth products at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Whether you prefer wood or gas, Woodland Stoves has the fire to fit your home. Pizza aficionados know nothing matches masonry oven baking for capturing flavor and nutrition. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces can easily install one in your home or business. Enthusiasts use these ovens year-round for bread making, wood roasting, even grilling.
The mission and passion of Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces is to make the fire work for you. The way humans relate to fire is primordial. We have used fire to warm our bodies, cook our meals, and kindle our spirits. Our team has the know-how to do this in a clean-burning and environmentally smart way. Visit our store and experience the diversity. We have over 35 working units on display at the corner of Riverside and East Franklin. See us online at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that fits and works for you.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
You can't go through a day without hearing about healthcare reform. St. Paul Corner Drug is here to help you navigate the ever-changing healthcare landscape. We are your advocate in getting much-needed prescription medication covered under your insurance plan. Need to choose a different plan? There is no reason to feel like you are drowning in the system. St. Paul Corner Drug can make simple work out of finding you a plan that best suits your needs. You can rest assured at St. Paul Corner Drug, pharmacy the way it should be.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Increasing clouds overnight and then some patchy fog late with a low of 35. The clouds and fog burn off on Saturday with a high of 57 and sunny skies. Nightingale at 26th and Lyndale in Minneapolis is your cozy, comfortable neighborhood bar and restaurant. Now open daily from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. with their full menu available until midnight. Check them out today at nightingalempls.com.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
It cracks me up every time I hear Dallas. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I just want to read Mary's post, Grandma Mary's post. We'll be doing the MMIWR2S action during the conference, and we'll carry you all within each step. We walk for the unjust, wrongful doings of our peoples. So we'll be doing a big shout out as Minnesota and Ojibwe elder that stands strong in these cause. Yeah, big shout out, Wendy.
That's awesome. This portion of the show is brought to you by MN 350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Oh, thank you. We're a lot of times we're off on that, Ogimaa and I was forgetting and everything. So I'm glad you're back here. Ogimaa, you have something before we bring
Yeah, I just want to clarify for our listeners, great grandmother Mary Lyons is at the COP26 conference in Glasgow, Scotland right now. That's why she's posting from Scotland and talking about the action during the conference. I know we talked about it yesterday, but I don't think we talked about the fact that there's a lot of Stop Line 3, MMIW, Indigenous advocates in general at the COP26 conference this year in Scotland. So I'm looking for more coverage on that. If anybody sees anything great come through, make sure you send it over to Native Roots Radio for us.
Yeah, that's AM950 Native Roots Radio at gmail.com for a quick response. Hey, so we're back with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we're just talking, I guess, about my habits, my eating habits, and the red dress, I guess is what the first segment was. But that was very powerful, and I'm glad we talked about it on the show, and you talked about it, and I was able to make that, because it always surprises me when I go to some ceremony, a Native ceremony, or when we talk about things, or do a movie that's about Native Americans, a true movie. I get very emotional. So yeah, thanks again for inviting me.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad that you were able to make it over. And one of your viewers mentioned something about making sure that we're reunifying our children with the families, so that, you know, they don't have the opportunity to, or not the opportunity, but the very good chance of being abused and being adopted out of their family, out of their culture, away from their kin. And Sandy Whitehawk, who you mentioned, was there. She was an adoptee as a child herself, and was later reunified with her family. And she works very hard and very intentionally around reuniting those adults and children who have been removed from their families. And here in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, we have the ICWA Law Center, Indian Child Welfare Law Center. And while they are working really hard to ensure that the ICWA laws, the federal laws, are in place so that tribes have that opportunity to protect and to keep those children close, rather than being adopted out or fostered out into non-Native families, it happens. It continues to happen to this day. And so Sandy used her life experiences and works really hard. And I think you mentioned it, Robert, every year, maybe around Thanksgiving, she puts together a powwow or a gathering of adoptees to come together. And they come from all over the country, even from Canada.
Right. Yeah. And she's also in that, she's like the lead person in Blood Memory.
Yep.
Documentary about her and ICWA. And, you know, it's interesting. We have Robert Lilligren on Thursdays, and we talk a lot about the Franklin Avenue and how much things started here in Minnesota, and the ICWA law office was started. The first one was here in Minnesota too. That still remains. And there's a big case in Texas, as you probably know, that's coming up to really, they're really coming at us, the Republicans, and wanting to change all these laws. And that's one of them that they're really looking into, is getting rid of ICWA, which we have enough problems with ICWA, with it being a law. I can't imagine what's going to happen if they try and get rid of that law in one of the biggest states.
Yeah, it will be. And you know, Minnesota has the highest rates of Native child removal from their families than any other state in the union. So we have a big job to do here in Minnesota.
Yeah, and I always bring this up with you, but I ran into a owner of a restaurant where my daughter goes or works at, and I go to, and she has listened to Finding Cleo twice.
Oh yeah.
No, and I kind of said to her today, I said, you know, when I listened to Finding Cleo, which is a CBC documentary podcast, I think it's a 10-part podcast about basically the removal of all these children from this lady, and they were trying to find their sister named Cleo. But I told her that I think the brother, her adopted family brother, killed her. You know, when I listened to it.
Yeah, that was I don't think there was a concluding, conclusion to that. I think there was still many questions left to be answered. And so I know I wasn't satisfied with, of course, suicide. That's what they say. Anytime, or too often, when there's been a death and it's suspicious terms, they'll just say it's suicide and be done with it. So
yeah, I really like that red dress ceremony that you were at the Capitol, and where State Representative Heather Keeler made that
Mhm.
passionate speech. Do you remember what she said? Because I know I messed it up, but she was basically saying something about, I've told my children that I would never leave, I would never commit suicide, and all these things. So
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people a lot of women, a lot of moms, especially Native, like, if I go missing, I did not commit suicide. It was not something that I did. I did not ask for it. All of those things, because that has been the mantra, and especially with missing and murdered, when families report their loved ones gone missing, and too often they would say, oh, she was out partying, or she ran away, or when they find the person, and if it's under suspicious circumstances, too often it's deemed a suicide, and there isn't a full investigation like we see so often with non-Native women who go missing. And so, yeah, that is absolutely true. And I know that Heather feels that very, very keenly.
yeah, it was very powerful. A lot of powerful Native women and women in our community. I just have to say that, because I'm always like pleasantly surprised, because it kind of comes at me in a different way. Like, again, it was like, hey, you're close, I'm going to stop by here, and then walking through the courtyard and see all those red dresses hanging, and then everyone speaking their truth. And I thought, too, back to Sandy, she said something that kind of stirred me too, because she brought up that young white woman, girl, really, that was murdered by her boyfriend, allegedly right now. But what she said that blew my mind was, she said, we've seen this many times where the girl is freaking out and the predator is standing there chill and mellow as could be. And I went, whoa, that's exactly what happened.
And he was saying she was crazy.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That was that. Do you remember when she said that? That
Yeah.
blew my mind, because it was like, we've seen this before. We know what this is. And it was like, whoa, she just called it out.
Well, it's really too bad that there are so many women, or so many people who are vulnerable, can look at those situations and basically say, wow, I've been there. I've been that person who has been, been battered and abused and thrown away, and they recognize all the signs, and that just tells you, that they themselves have experienced that kind of trauma, and it's so heartbreaking, really and truly heartbreaking.
Well, and I guess her point too was, which is right on, is that our police need to be really educated in this way. And I think that was kind of her point, where he was trying to settle her down, and really he should be like in his face going, what's going on? What'd you do to her? In plain English. And I was like, yeah, our police do need to. And that is exactly what happened. She was reaching out for help in the way that she knew how, and nobody saw it. Nobody there as the police saw it, because we didn't see those tapes until days later.
Yeah.
Cop cams,
Yeah, it's interesting because I was invited to go about 4 hours north of the Twin Cities here to Ely, Minnesota, and give a presentation on the MMIR work that we've been doing. And then I went over to the Vermilion Community College and did another presentation with the students. And they were an enthralled group of students, and they asked really, really good questions. And then later on, one of the public safety people, students that were going through public safety program, asked, how can we incorporate this information into their coursework? And I just thought that was really great, that they are recognizing that it is an issue, and that they're really thinking about that they need more information. And then when I was leaving, I was out in the parking lot, and these two young students, young men, kind of the typical up north in their camouflage, jacket and caps and what or not, walked over to me, and I was just sort of like, ooh, what's this going to be? Are they going to discount what I said? Are they going to say it's not true or whatever? And they were so respectful. And again, they said, why didn't we know about this? We live up here. How is it that we don't know that this is happening? And I had been talking about the sex trafficking, the history in Minnesota of sex trafficking too. And they had no idea. And so we have so much education to do. And this is Robert and Wendy, thank you. And Ogimaa, thank you for doing this show throughout the week so that we can get this kind of information out there time and time again, because folks need to hear it so many times.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And I appreciate that, Mary. And we really always appreciate you and your level-headedness and telling us your truth, because you represent us all in the state here, and I really appreciate you and welcome and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Wopalatonka to you.
We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN 350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN 350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Is that your Friday howl? We made it through the week, but just barely.
Just barely. It's not over yet. We still have 11 minutes. So, hey, Wendy, so happy to have you back. And it's a positive Friday here.
Yep.
And even though we got a little heavy with State Senator Mary Kunesh, that's all right, because you bring it up on the rear here, and we're going to talk some fun facts on something. But we love having the sacred animals section of the show, and I learn a lot. And they're all our relatives.
Yeah,
so
I learn a lot
take
too.
it away.
Yeah, thanks everybody. My name is Hanaji Hihani, and that means cares for them. And I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. So as always, Curtis, thank you. Curtis's name is Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. Anyway, today is National Cat Day, so I want to wish our meowing cat, Lucy, a National Cat Day. and I have a picture of her. I don't know if you could bring that up, Ogimaa. It's from a couple of years ago. She was my inspiration when I was carving a pumpkin. So there she is. She's my inspiration because she doesn't stop meowing, so her mouth is always open. So I carved out a cat face on a pumpkin
with her mouth open. And you have a picture of both of them with their mouth open.
I have a picture of Lucy because all I have to do is say her name and she meows to me. So I put it right next to the pumpkin and said that.
Meow, though.
Yeah,
now
well,
it's like she's mad.
What I want to say before I go to the fun fact section, I need to bring this up because I need people to do some work over the weekend, if that's okay. And it really would take literally less than 1 minute. I want everyone to go to relistwolves.org. And you could leave a comment or an email. And yesterday, over 20 senators signed a letter to the Biden administration urging them to grant emergency protections for the gray wolf. These senators recognize the urgency of the moment as the gray wolf may not be able to withstand another 11 months of these slaughters while waiting from the Fish and Wildlife Services status review. So we need to really make this go faster and get these wolves back on the endangered species list. I want to thank all the 20 senators who did this, but I want to call out 2 of them who I know did not do this. They are all for wolf hunt and killing wolves. And I know that you know one of them, Robert, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Oh, God.
She did not. And another one, which I was a little bit surprised about, Tina Smith.
Toxic Tina?
Tina. She did not go on and sign for the Wolves. Anyway, I just want people to go again. Exactly. So this email, all you have to do is put your information in and it goes right to these senators, Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith. So go on to relistwolves.org and take care of that. It's really easy to do. It'll take you less than 30 seconds. I want to give a shout out to let's see here. Surgery and Wellness Animal Clinic. It's taking place on November 9th, Friday, November 9th from 9 to 4 p.m. at the All Nations Church, 1515 East 23rd Street in Minneapolis.
Marlene's church.
Yeah. So what they're doing is they're providing spay and neuter surgeries and wellness exams and with vaccines. If you need your pet spay and neuter, please call them. The surgery spots are limited, but you could call them at 612-872-1424. That's 612-872-1424.
And November 9th is my 37th year sobriety day.
Wow. Congratulations. Yes, I knew that.
I'm not there yet. I'm a little thirsty after this week.
But yes, from 9 to 4. So if you need your pet spay or neutered, I was going to say spooked. I don't know. It's the holiday weekend for Halloween. So, but what I wanted to really talk to you about, and I only have a couple of minutes left here, but that's okay. Fun facts about the pileated woodpecker. And I have to say this, Robert, I've been living in Minnesota for almost 22 years now. And I never saw a woodpecker before I moved here. Like I never saw one on Long Island ever. But the cooler weather means woodpeckers are making more appearances at backyard feeders. If you're one of the lucky ones, that will include sightings of the striking pileated woodpecker. Here are some fun facts to know about this gorgeous bird. And Ogimaa did post a picture of the pileated woodpecker. It's the one with the really bright red hat, top. And it's a pretty big one. Pileated woodpeckers are the largest woodpecker in North America at 16 to 19 inches in length. The pileated woodpecker is about as large as the American crow. So they're pretty big. Many bird species pair up and establish a territory just for the nesting season. Not so for the pileated woodpecker. They stay together and keep rivals and invaders at bay well after the chicks have left the nest. So that's it. They stay where they're put. And pileated means capped or crested. The showy red crest of the pileated woodpecker gives its signature look, and the word pileated is derived from pileus, a close-fitted cap worn by the Romans. So that's pretty interesting. They leave distinct markings. The strong pointed bill of the pileated woodpecker is often described as a chisel. The markings they leave behind on soft and decaying wood are rectangular in shape. And sometimes, Robert, we've even been home and heard the woodpeckers outside. Like you could definitely hear them.
What do they say again?
They're knock, knock, knock on wood. Knock, knock, knock on wood.
Oh my God.
That was not rehearsed. Their favorite food is carpenter ants. I had no idea. So why do pileated woodpeckers spend so much time hammering, dying trees, and falling logs? They're looking for carpenter ants, their favorite source of protein. Studies of their diet show these ants make up 40% of their diet, but it can be as high as 97% in individual woodpeckers. Once they're bored holes into the soft wood, they insert their barbed tongue to gather up ants as well as larvae and other bugs hiding below the surface of the bark. Pileated woodpeckers help other birds eat also. As the pileated woodpeckers hammers away, other bird species may hover nearby, ready to catch flying insects escaping from the new opening the woodpecker created. So they're not just feeding themselves, they feed other birds too. Fall and winter are the best times to see the pileated woodpeckers. So that's right now, folks. As the leaves change and the weather turns colder, the pileated woodpecker adjusts its diet. Instead of spending its days high in the trees devouring bugs and insects, it's now making a broader search for nuts and seeds. This works out pretty nicely for the backyard birder, setting out enticing foods such as suet or nut mix will bring them in for a landing. Without a doubt, they'll love the nuts, fruit, and corn found. You could go check it out on Lyric Woodpecker No Waste Mix. You could buy that actually. Pick up a bag today. And we usually are always putting out some type of feed, corn and sunflower seeds and whatnot. And we get a lot of birds here. So hopefully we'll be seeing more pileated woodpeckers soon.
Yeah, it's interesting. Somebody mentioned on our live feed about albino squirrels, but we also see black squirrels, which I guess are really rare in this part of the country. And
I know why they're black squirrels. I'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, save that for a sacred animal section.
I will.
Hey, I just want to give a quick shout out to State Senator Mary Kunesh. Another shout out to Wendy for being Wendy and also her sacred animal section. And of course, Ogimaa for making things happen. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. We need to resist, divest, join a group, or run for office. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3. Please get vaccinated.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or